Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday and welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Michelle Adamas and I'm the owner of Vintage Revival Design Co. And we are live on my page and YouTube and Roycycled Treasures today. So if you pop on here, please say hello. We are going to be doing a decoupage project today with some fabric, some scrap fabric, and I don't know, I think it'll be kind of fun. It's not difficult. It's just another option. And so I thought we could do that. Before we get started, I'm going to let you know that our son has to go back to work for a second shift. And so you're going to hear a lot of pots and pans flying and the door open and stuff like that. So just because we're trying to get him fed before he goes back. So again, please say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. And hi, Joanne, how are you? Thank you for saying hello. So let me show you what we're going to be working with, and then I'm going to switch the cameras. So we're going to be working, this is one of my, well, I'm not even going to say favorites because the new release is beautiful, but this is the Heirloom Pumpkins. This is not the stacked pumpkins. This is the Heirloom Pumpkins Roycycled Decoupage tissue, and it was designed by artist Lexi Grenzer. And so these are all her beautiful watercolor images and onto a paper. And so the other thing that we're going to be working with today is we're going to be working with images from the IOD Fruitful Harvest stamp and some scrap fabric and some stuff. Okay. Hi, Doris. How are you? And so here's my idea. I am going to go ahead and turn this. I'm going to switch up, bring on this other camera. Hi, Janice. It's so nice to see you too. So hold on. Let me switch. I want to go here. And sorry, guys, I'm just trying to, okay, there we go. So now you can see the project table, I think, okay? So I found this super cute little embroidery hoop at Michael's, and I loved it because it was a little bit, you know, not like the others. So I still love those round ones with the tension up at the top, but this one is held in place just by the two frames. And I liked it because it really does look like just a different kind of frame. So I thought we could work with that. And so I am going to start by taking this out, and I want to work with this piece first. So this is the frame part that goes in there. And I've got a piece of fabric, and I do have one prepared already, but I want to show you the steps for this. So I'm laying my fabric down, and I just, as I'm working with the decoupage, I just want to make sure that I'm going to kind of have an idea of the design area that I want to work on. So I'm choosing the inner one, and I'm just going to hold it in place, and with a pencil, I hope this is the right pencil, I'm going to just mark here. We won't see the pencil lines because they're on the outside. And this will be a little bit bigger than I need, but it'll just, you know, as we're decoupaging, it just gives me a little bit of a frame to work in, I guess is what I want to say. So let's see if I got that. That's good enough. I can just kind of come in here. Okay. And so I have that done. And now what I did was I just chose the grape leaves. I want to show you first the image. I went ahead and fussy cut this image out of the Heirloom Pumpkins paper. And hi, Dos, how are you? Thank you, from Arizona. So I went ahead and fussy cut this, and I painted the back of it with some white gesso. And but you can see it could be cute, but it's just kind of on its own. It is cute because it's a beautiful design, but I thought we might want to add a little bit of interest to the background. And so that's where the stamping is going to come in. So I've chosen the grape leaf, some stamps here, and I thought we could start with that. And so I'm going to just ink this up. I'm going to move this over just a little bit. And I've got a smaller little piece of thin mount is what I'm going to be using to do this. And so I'm going to be using IOD Stone ink, and I'm just going to go ahead and ink this up. And just make sure that I have it all there. And so now I'm going to move my fabric back, and just kind of at the bottom of this is kind of what I was thinking, is that I would have these leaves just kind of come up. I like how they curve a little bit, and I want some of them to be off here. So I'm going to come down right here, and then just with my hands, I'm holding it down with one hand and giving some good pressure on this with my other hand, especially because this fabric isn't super smooth. And so I wanted to work with it on that and just make sure. So while your hand is in place, you can always lift up a little bit. This one isn't. You can lift up a little bit and make sure that your images have transferred to your fabric. And I've got a little spot right here. So as long as you don't lift it, you can line it up. And that's going to be good enough because we are actually going to be watercoloring these images as well. And so anyway, so when I lift it up, and again, I'm not worried about this. We're not going to see this. We're just going to be working with what's on the inside. The next step would be, excuse me, to let this dry, and you would want to heat set this. Some of the guidance is to let it dry 24 hours and then heat set it, but I can speed it up with a heat gun, and then it's good to go. Once that ink is dry and you've heat set it, the next thing you want to do is, well, I don't know that you want to do this, but this is what I did. And oh my goodness, from Ireland, hello, thank you so much. So I applied 2 coats of clear gesso to this, and I let that dry, and I sped it up with my heat gun, and then I was good to go. So I've already prepared one for us so that we can get going on our project. And so this is the one that let me make some room for myself here. All right. This is the one that I've already prepared. So you can see where the gesso is. You can see a slight difference in the color. But what the gesso is going to do is to prepare the fabric surface for the paint that we want to do. And my idea is that I would decoupage. And so I already like that because it just gives it a little more interest. And we're going to be watercoloring in these little leaves and maybe a little sky background. I don't know. But the first thing that I want to do is go ahead and decoupage this onto my fabric. So we're going to do that because I really only want to watercolor around here. I could watercolor them, and I am going to try to be careful about, not going on my white pumpkin. But I think I want to go ahead and decoupage these first. And I do want those leaves to sit up a little bit, and I'm going to come up a little bit higher, and I'm going to kind of get an idea of where I want it. And what I'm going to be using to decoupage is actually it's called Clear Gel Tacky Glue. And this is by Aleene's. I think your normal mediums would work, but I'm going to use this. It's strong. I am going to add a little bit of water to it just to make it easier to brush on. I've got to shake it. It's pretty thick. So I am going to water it down a little bit. It'll dry clear. And I just thought, let's give it a try. I've been wanting to do that. I've decoupaged other things with it, but I'm not sure. So we're going to try that. I'm going to use my spray bottle, and I'm just going to spritz a little bit of water into that glue just to make it easier to move around and mix that up a little bit. I don't know that it'll make a big difference, but I'm going to move this off a little bit. And on here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to brush on my glue to get it started. I'm not starting on my fabric because I feel that the glue would perhaps create a resist on the fabric. And so I'm going to go ahead and do all of my gluing here like this, and then apply it. So I'm squeezing out a little bit more. Like I said, it is super, super thick glue, and it doesn't dry too quickly, but I want to make sure I'm holding it down a little bit and spreading my glue, I don't want to tear it, right? Hi, Jolene, how are you? And so we'll get that done. So did that make sense that I'm doing it this way because I don't want this glue to get all over my fabric, and because I'm not the messiest, or I'm not the neatest decoupage. I always have a little bit of medium oozing out when I kind of piece things together. And this is a little scary because typically we just work in sections with our decoupage. We don't do the whole thing. But so we're taking a lot of risks today. Let's cross our fingers and hope that it all works out. The nice thing about this is that I can see where I have the glue and where I don't, because it's going to be a little shiny. Okay, I am going to set that aside and move this. I'm going to lift it up gently and move that aside. And I'm going to bring my fabric over. And then I am going to try to carefully lay this down where I think I want it. I think that's a little high. So I may have a little resist up there. I'm not going to worry about that too much. And then let me get a little plastic wrap. I pulled out a big thing and now it doesn't want to cut. All right. And so what I'm going to do with my balled up plastic wrap is I'm going to just gently put this down. But because my glue is all over and I didn't go too heavy in any area, I shouldn't have a lot of seepage. And if I do, I'll probably go over that with a little bit of gesso. Okay. Hi, Mary. Thank you so much for joining and saying hello. I appreciate it. So I do see that I've got a little spot right here. So just like we do with everything else, we want to make sure that our edges are down all the way around. Okay. And so now let's bring our frame back and see if we're getting there. Okay. Hi, Sherry. How are you? All right. So you can see that with the frame. So now we've got those leaves there and they're super cute, right? And I love these pumpkins. So because I thought about doing some other painting, but because they were already watercolored, I didn't want to compete with that. And so I decided to go ahead and just do the watercolor. And so the gesso is actually making my fabric, giving me the ability to go ahead and watercolor this. So let's go ahead and do that. We have Cynthia here. Hi, and Barbara and John. Thank you again so much for saying hello and for joining. So let me just make a little bit of room here on my space. I'm a little tight here on space today. And so I am just going to be using, if any of you follow me and we've done watercolor projects before, this is just an inexpensive, relatively inexpensive set by Paul Rubens off of Amazon. And I have used the heck out of it. I have very nice watercolors, a few colors, but I'm just going to be using this set. And what I like about it is that I can use this part as my palette and mix up my colors, and then I can clean it out. I also have 2 cups of water. I have one for cleaning my brush and one for dipping into clean water. And so I'm going to be using those. And then I want to keep a paper towel close by. So there's a little bit of stuff, right? And I'm going to be using my watercolor brushes. And we're just going to go ahead and paint these leaves and then a background. And then I decided actually that I think what I want to try, I've never done this before, but I want to try and see if it works out. I'm actually going to apply some waxes to this to seal it when we're done. So again, let's cross our fingers and let's get to painting. So I'm going to start just anywhere. I'm going to start with a leaf, and I always like to just mix a little bit of color. So, and maybe add a little bit more water to it. And see, the more water I have, the lighter the color will go, but we can start with something a little more concentrated. At first, I'm going to kind of outline these leaves. Okay. And just go over that, that stone gray ink. And I am going to be careful here where I'm going. Now, I don't have to fill in the leaves. I could just use the outline for them. And you'll notice that I'm not painting over the line here because, you know, why? It's just going to be cut off, right? And we have Jay Sheridan and Shelly and Donna. Thank you so much. Oh, it's Tammy. Oh, no, she's saying hello to somebody. So sorry about that. I forget that so many of you know each other. And I'm going to just kind of outline here. I will be adding other color in these, but right now I just want to cover up that stone gray ink. So you see, we could just leave them outlined, and even that's really pretty too, I think. But the gesso is what's allowing me to paint over this. I'll show you an example of not having the gesso. So the top of this fabric is not treated. I only did this. So if I go over here and try to do that, it's almost because you can get some color on there, but it doesn't go on as concentrated or as smoothly. So the gesso was the missing piece on this, on the fabric. So I'm going to add a little more water to this, and we'll go from there. Let me know if you have questions as we go along. Also, let me know, have you painted on fabric before? The Fruitful Harvest stamp is an oldie but goodie. So I think it was 2 falls ago. And it's when we were having supply chain issues, and it came out, I think it came out really just too closely to Christmas. So there are several of us that still have just a few. I'm almost out of them. But it is a stamp set that I use each fall ever since I've had it. So hi, Royce, how are you? I hope you're having a great vacation. And oh my goodness, hi, Kathy, how are you? So, so I'm just doing this. We're almost done with that part. And then we'll just start adding some color. And again, I'm only outlining these so that I can kind of cover up that stone gray ink that we used. And I don't mind that it gives it a little shadow and definition. That is fine too. And so I could just let it puddle, and we will have some of that. So I'm just outlining that. There we go. And I did not use what I used to apply this, Donna. I mentioned that in the beginning. So I coated my fabric with 2 coats of gesso. Now, I'm not using a fabric Mod Podge because this is, remember, this is going to be in an embroidery hoop, and it's not something I'm going to wash. So I didn't, it's not like I was doing, goodness, I've got something in my throat, excuse me. It's not like I was going to be needing to wash this. And I'm going to be sealing it with waxes, which are water resistant. At least I think I'm going to. I think I would be careful if you were going to put this in a kitchen or something like that, then I would seal it with your top coat, a clear top coat. But because waxes can attract, kitchen stuff. But if I'm not putting this in a kitchen, I can do it with some waxes. And so I thought we could just use some antiquing waxes and stuff like that. So I don't know if I'm getting all of those lines, but let's just go ahead and start here. Okay, so we've outlined it. And as I said, we could just leave it like that. And you're so welcome, Donna. I adhered the actual pumpkin decoupage with Aileen's tacky glue in clear. And but my fabric, I coated with 2 coats of gesso before we were painting. That way I can do that. So I'm just going to, I don't have a real rhyme or reason for any of this. You're going to see that really quickly, but I'm going to mix this other green into I'm going to mix these 2 together. And then we're just going to, I just start to add color and I mix them a lot. this, I will probably add, you know, 3 or whatever colors in here. But we're going to go ahead and lay this one down. And I'll go over some of those lines or try to maintain some of them. And again, I am being careful around my pumpkin. So I am doing that. Okay. Now, Mod Podge for fabric, I have seen Royce use it. And I actually bought some for some projects that I want to do. And that looks pretty cool. And it is something that you would be able to wash. Most likely, my understanding is that if you're decoupaging paper onto it, you would probably want to hand wash and line dry. But if you are using it with fabric, you have a little more flexibility, but still washing on cold water. So I'm really excited to try it because I have only known a few ways that aren't really the easiest to decoupage on fabric. So I'm pretty excited to do that. So I'm filling in here. We actually have some pumpkins growing in our backyard. We didn't know what we were doing, and which is normal when it comes to this, because yeah. Anyway, so we're growing this year. We're growing tomatoes, which have been delicious, and let's see, squash and zucchini. And then we decided, you know what? Let's see if we can grow some pumpkins. And so we planted like just one little area with a couple of seeds, and my husband has to keep cutting it back. So it's turning into a patch, like an entire pumpkin patch. And we had no idea. So this is coming along, I think. What do you guys think? And Mona, oh my goodness. Hi, Mona. I'm so sorry. That is the thing. I will tell you that is the thing that I do miss about, my old location. I was always there whenever the store was open. And in this location, I'm not. And I will say that is the hardest part, because I miss seeing all of you. And tell me what papers you got. I would be excited to know. And hi, Karen and Donna. I'm glad you like it. It is, we're still going to be adding some color. I'm not the fastest at this, so I hope, this doesn't put you to sleep. But it is very relaxing, you guys. Just painting things is very, I don't know, it is just so relaxing. And so you can see I can mix up my paint, add the colors, and I'm even just adding a little bit of white. I'm liking this, but I am going to add just a little more color. Maybe mimic some of these little splotches that we have in the leaves, just to give it some interest. I don't want it to look like I, just did it in one color. That's not super interesting to me. So I'm going to come in here, and we're going along. And so I hope now you can see why I didn't paint the leaves before I put on the decoupage. This just gives me an opportunity to just paint where I need it and make sure that those pumpkins pop on the fabric. I was thinking we might even add a little sky, but you guys can decide if you think that's a good idea or not. Hi, David. Tell Royce I said hi, and hi to you. I'm so glad to see that you guys are having a great trip. It's been fun and to see, and I'm so glad you guys are able to get away and have a little time for yourselves. Okay, so here we are with this, and let me see here. Okay, I thought we could do a sky. So while I'm finishing these leaves, you guys decide if we're going to do a little sky here, or let me show you like the little frame. If we're going to do a sky up there, or if we're just going to leave it. I think it could be pretty either way. But I'm going to let you guys decide if we do the sky or not. Okay. But because there's a delay, I need you to get on that and start thinking. Okay. So, because there is a delay and we could be here forever, or left to my own devices, I would tell you guys that you could vote and then I would decide to do something else. So, but I want you guys to choose. And we have Susan and Mary and Betty both say a sky. And oh my God, okay. So the fall botanical blocks and the catalog of birds. You got beautiful, beautiful papers, Mona. I'm so, so glad. I'll be bringing in a restock in a couple of days. The new release has been really popular, and I'm not surprised at all. Every time there's a release, I'm always like, oh my gosh, oh my God. I just love it. I get as excited as you guys do to create. And, but often what happens is that I'll sell out of my favorite, but this time I made sure to set at least one of most of the papers aside so that I could play with them. Okay, so here's what we've got for the leaves, and I'm going to go ahead, and Karen says no sky, and I'll go with the I don't know, maybe we'll just do a little, like, I don't know what we're going to do. All right, let's add a little bit of a darker green. Let me see what this is. It's kind of hard. I don't have my little cheat sheet with me. I usually have a little sheet that shows me what the colors are in the pans so that I can find them quickly and easily. All right, so for this one, I want a whole bunch of water on my brush. I'm going to dip this in, and I'm just going to kind of pop just some little, and let it kind of just kind of go. The more water you have on your brush, the more you can do that. And I'm just, again, I'm sure there is no leaf in the world that looks like this, but I just wanted to add a little bit of concentrated color. And I just like that it makes it, I can't talk and paint at the same time. I like it that it just gives it a little more interest, and I'll add some in the stems here. Okay. And a little bit here. I could keep going. I could add orange. I could just do like all the things, but I think you guys get the idea, and that you'll forgive me if I keep painting later. And so that you might see something that's a little bit different. Here I went just a little too concentrated, and all I really have to do for that is just add more water on my brush with no paint. So I can just take a wet brush like that, and then that takes that away. As long as it's not sealed, it can reactivate. So so we have no sky. We've got, you guys are kind of even. So I think I'm just about done here. I think I'm going to stop with this just for now. So can you tell the difference of, is it hard to see on camera? Here we've just got those kind of two colors that I've added. But when we add that third color in there, I feel like it just gives it a lot more interest. So, okay, you're going to vote twice. Okay. So let's see what we've got. I'm going to get some more water on my brush, and I'm just going to kind of dab in here. Just kind of dab in random places, and then I'll just add more water to my brush. And then I think we're just about done. I'm just adding it randomly. I really don't have a, you know, I'm not following a color chart or anything, and you shouldn't either. You should just do what you, what is pleasing to you, because really that's all that matters. So here, where the color is really concentrated, I'm just adding water. And what that does is it will start to blend it into the other colors, and that's what I want. I'm dying to put a little bit of yellow or orange in those leaves. Do you think you guys could hang in there with me while I did that? All right, I'm just going to put a little. Okay, I'm going to take this mustardy yellow that I have. I call it a mustardy yellow, but it's probably more of like a little bit of a golden. And I'm getting my waters even messed up. But I'm just going to kind of come in here and then just add even a little more. Some brown splatter would be really pretty in this. So I'm just, and all of a sudden these leaves just kind of take on just this beautiful variation in color. And that's what I love. I would have loved to use the watercolor pencils on this, but it was because the fabric is so textured, that really didn't work out well. I'm going to mix a little bit more of the green in there and just blend those colors in. I just want to do this a little bit and see, I like that a lot. Just even that little yellow, that little bit of yellow color is really, really, really pretty in these. And so I just want to add a little bit more of this. We can do just a little bit of a wash. It doesn't have to be, remember, the more we do, and I think we could just do just a little bit. So let's do that, because I think I can't count and do this at the same time. So here I'm just taking some water, and then I'm just going to do a final blending of these colors. And so now we have our leaves, and I'm hoping that it shows up. Okay. And so Kathy votes just a little wash too. So for this, I'm going to be using a big brush. This is a number 12. This is, I think, the biggest watercolor brush that I have. And so I want one that's going to hold a lot of water, especially since we're going to be doing that wash. And so I'm going to pick up, there's this really beautiful turquoise blue. And I think if I wet it down enough, I'm not sure you can see it, but there you go. So if I can wet it down enough, I think it's going to be a beautiful little, let's just do something kind of as a suggestion. We'll start with a suggestion of a sky, because we can always add more. Okay. And I can always go in with white too. So now what I do is, all I've done is I'm cleaning my brush, but I'm keeping all this water on it. I'm just going to tap it off just a little bit, but I'm going to go in here, and you can see how I've just got a whole bunch of water. So I'm just going to kind of, I am just letting it maybe go darker on the edges. And the more water I add and the more I move my brush around, it's very, very, very subtle. So for all of you non-sky lovers for this, I'm hoping that this was enough of a compromise here. So even though, remember, this color is coming out pretty concentrated, all I have to do is add some clean water and go over that. And now I can just kind of move that around and spread that out. Right? And so we're just doing a subtle wash of color. The wet on wet, it is working on the fabric, Susan, and it is because I primed the fabric with gesso. And so I am able to do that. If I had not, I think it just would have, I don't know. I primed it, and I'm not having a problem with it. So this is the wet on wet, and you can see that that's working. So I'm just going to kind of come in here, and then I'll go a little bit lighter as I go down here, but I do just kind of want to finish that off. And now I'm just going to start with some clear water and blend that out. Again, just clean water, lots of it. and then I can reactivate that paint and move it around. Okay. I like the subtle color. I'm not sure about down here. I think I'm going to go ahead and finish that off with the waxes. And, but I think this is pretty subtle and it just gives it a little bit of extra color. So many things, you know, we could stamp on this. We could do all of that. But right now what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and dry this with my heat tool. And then we're going to get to the waxing. Okay. So let me, oh gosh, I hope I'm going to be able to get this, pull this tight enough. My cord gets a little messy. All right, so let's go ahead and dry this up. We'll go from there. Okay, good. Kathy, I'm glad you like it. And really, it's just, I do love that about watercolors, whether it's pencils or paint in the pan. I just love it because I feel like it's pretty forgiving and it's, you know, just something that you can work with, right? And then I'll hold this up maybe so you can see it a little bit. This dries really, really quickly. I just want to go over it. And so the gesso does, I will say that the gesso is great for something like this. It does make it feel a little plasticky, but I do think that that works. So let's get an idea so you can see how this is going to fit. And I think it's pretty just like that. But I do want to go ahead and seal this. And this is the part I'm a little nervous about because I haven't done this before. And I don't know why I decide that I'm going to try something new like this. So I'm going to be using a variety of waxes, but let's give it a shot. So this is I'm going to be using a few waxes. These are by Amy Howard at Home. You can find these and the paper and the stamp set, all of that on my website. The fabric was a leftover, it was a scrap from an upholstery piece that I did, but I think that this would be great on like drop cloth. And oh my goodness, you could get amazing coverage on, or an amazing number of products out of something like that. I don't have a little cardboard, but so this is a clear wax and I'm applying it with a chip brush and I'm going to kind of remove some of it. I really should have a board, but whenever you're going to be layering your waxes, you always want to start with your clear wax first. You want to remember this paper is not sealed. It is attached, but it is not sealed. And so if I were to lay on dark waxes, it could seep into my paper because the paper will absorb the moisture, and we're not going to do that. So when you're layering waxes, always start with your clear wax first, and then it can also work as an eraser. So I'm going over this entire piece and I can feel where it's going. I'm just going to tap off some. I'm going over this. And again, I am basically holding my breath to make sure that, you know, I hope this is going to work. I just had this idea and I thought, goodness, since it's a decor piece that isn't going to be touched, I could just do that. The panels, oh yes, they would be really pretty on an oval chair back. That would be beautiful. So I'm going to feel around and make sure that I've got enough wax on here. So again, I wouldn't put something that you've sealed with wax in your kitchen because, you know, you don't want it to pick up kitchen stuff, but you can absolutely do it on something like this. And it also makes it water resistant, which is awesome. All right, I'm just going to feel around this and make sure that I got the areas that I want to do. So I also keep my waxes in their own little Ziploc bag with their own brush. So I just keep them like that, whether I'm using the hemp oil. Now I could have used salve and had it smell fabulous, but salve does have a little bit of an amber to it that could stain my fabric and in a way that I didn't want it to. Almost like a greenish kind of color. So I want to try and see if the light antiquing wax is going to work. And let's see, Luann, I hope I answered your question. This was a scrap piece of upholstery fabric, but I think that the canvas drop cloths that you can get at the big box stores would work well too. So this is a light antiquing wax. I use this a lot, as you can see, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to load up my brush with this. I'm going to take some off, and it just gives just a very light color. So I don't know if this is going to be enough, but where I really wanted to go around was I kind of really wanted to come in here around my pumpkins and give them a little bit of a shadow. And I'll add a little bit more here. And I'm just kind of going around here. I might come in just to give a little color around the leaves. I can just go over the leaves with the light antiquing wax. And you can see that it gives it the slightest bit of color. Not a lot, nothing overpowering. And then the final one that I want to do is the dark. So I'm going to kind of come up here, kind of randomly. I'm going around that surface and just kind of on the edges there. And I don't know that we're really seeing too much change. It's very, very subtle, but I think it's pretty. I'll just go over the whole thing. Yeah, I'm not getting a whole lot. I am getting a little bit of, you can see like a little bit of shading in here, which I think is really pretty. And so let's try, we're going to go very, very, very sparingly with the dark wax in just a few areas. Okay, so let me put that back. And the nice thing is you'll see, I want to make sure when I'm using dark wax that I have my clear wax close by. And that is because if you've applied your clear wax first and then your dark wax, you can often use your clear wax as an eraser if you go a little too heavy in a spot. And so I want to make sure that I don't put that bag away where I can't get to it. And I have, this is the dark antique wax. So you're going to see it's a very stark contrast. So this is very dark. I have little chip hairs in there. So that does happen. But I'm going to go ahead and put some on here. And you may have to pick up some of the chip hairs. These usually don't shed horribly, but you can tell this brush has been used a lot. And I want you to see the difference. So you can start to see that is when I brush off, that's a much darker area. I want to be super, super careful. I'm just going to do a little bit of shading in kind of a crosshatch motion here. It's just to keep things interesting and to not look all, I don't know what it is, but I really like a lot of shading and dimension in my pieces. So I'm kind of, and then I think I'm just going to kind of come around here. I could do a little bit of a color wash if I wanted a shadow around my pumpkins, but I think I'm going to just kind of come up here, and I probably should have thought about that, doing that. I'm going to come underneath this pumpkin. So I'm going to use the edges here for this. And I'm just kind of lightly touching, and it just helps to further define. So what I probably would have liked to have done a little bit differently is just to use watercolor to shadow underneath my pumpkins, but I didn't. And this wax will act as a resist, so that's not an option for me. Now, I could use markers, but I really like the watercoloring. So you can see here, I'm just going to go ahead and make up for that by adding more dark wax under my pumpkin. Okay. And so that is kind of where we're going to stop with this. I'm super happy with this. And I'm going to go ahead and put my waxes back. And I didn't need to erase anything. So now what we want to do is go ahead and put this back into our embroidery frame, and then we will cut this. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and lay it about here, and I will be able to move this around and pull it taut. This is a little tricky to get back on, but what you can see is that it's got the grooves here, and that's what it settles into. So I'm going to first put this here, and it's going to take just a little bit because I found this to be really tricky to get it back on, but I'm going to go ahead and get this in, and then we'll pull our fabric. If I can just get this thing on, I think we'll be good. See how it's like slipping? I'm having a hard time. It should just fit in those little grooves and stay in place. This will be the hardest part of our project, is just getting this little thing back on. So I'm going to hold that in place. Oh my goodness. See what it does? All right, let's see if I can do it this way and pull. Pull. I'll try to roll it maybe. Let's see. All right, don't let this deter you. All right, so from here you can see that I've got my lines here, right? So I'm going to pull the fabric a little bit and then back, and we're going to, this is going to be a kicker. Hold on. All right, let me hold it there. And then there, I will say that the ones with the tension are a lot easier than these. All right, so I'm going to hold it down on one side, and I'm going to pull and work with it. I'm going to pull down here because we're wanting to. So I'm just pulling all around until I can get this where those little pencil lines aren't showing, right? Just, I'm having to go gently with it. Yes, I need extra hands. Yeah, I need a third hand. And my husband's in the kitchen, but I don't know that he would want to come in here and do that. So I'm going to, I've got a little, I guess I could just kind of like paint down there, but I just need to pull a little bit more. So I'm just working around. Of course, you know, the embroidery hoop that I liked was the one that was going to be difficult to get on, but we're going to keep going. I need to just pull a little bit more. So I'm going to see what I can do down here. I can always add a little dark wax down there if I want to and take care of that. Okay. So you get the idea, right? Just kind of like that. And then what I want to do now is, I like the hoop too, very, very, very much. And yes, this is definitely thicker material because this is very much like a heavier weight drop cloth, Susan. So that is it too, because muslin usually would pull through pretty easily. And this is a little bit more challenging, but that's okay. I like the loop. Okay. So now what I want to do, I don't have my fabric scissors, so I could just go to the back and do this, but I'm going to go ahead and cut around it. And then I probably will just go ahead and secure that to my hoop in the back just to finish it off a little bit. And we'll do that. I'm just cutting around. These aren't the fabric scissors, but they're doing a good job of cutting around. And so what I would do is I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get that tacky glue to work. I could cut right up to the hoop, but I don't have sharp enough scissors to do that. And I also don't want it to fray anywhere. Okay, so I've got that. We're getting closer, right? So you can see without that fabric that this is basically what it's going to look like. What I do need to do is to do a little bit of brown wax down in here where I couldn't pull that taut enough, but everywhere else it worked out. It worked out really well. So now what I'm going to do is make sure I've got a clean surface, and I'm just going to take that tacky glue again. And see if this will work. If not, I do have like a tape, a no-sew tape that'll work. And I really didn't want to do too much hot glue, but I'm just going to hold this in place like this. And this is going to take a little bit. So we may or may not finish this part. And I don't even know if it's going to stick to that. If it doesn't, I can use Tite Bond. It's going to be a little difficult to stick, probably because it has some wax on it. So I will probably wait, you guys, and get the fabric scissors out that I forgot to get. And that way I can just cut it right to the edge here. And it'll be, but you can see it. And that's our project. I thought that I could, maybe do a loop up here, or I could hang it just like it is. But I'll bring it up so you can see a little bit there. That's the area that's going to bother me, but I'll fix that, like I said, with some dark wax. Okay. So anyway, guys, that is our project. And I'll be sure to share a picture of the finished one. I'm going to let this wax tack up so that I don't mess it up too badly. And let me go from here. 1 second. I'm going to go there. All right, so that's it. So anyway, I just so appreciate all of you joining me and creating with me. Some of you are here every week, and some of you I get to meet for the first time, and I just always love it. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions or you're watching on replay, please be sure to leave them in the comments, and I will get to them as soon as I possibly can tonight or tomorrow. And anyway, that's it. And anyway, I will see you soon. I'll be back next week. And I hope wherever you are that you're doing well. Take care, everybody, and have a great night. All right. Bye-bye.